Hello everyone, MeNoHaxor here. Riot just released information on the new Taric Rework, so if you haven't checked it out yet, there's a link to it in the description below, but if you haven't looked at it yet, I'll be briefly going over each of his abilities and kind of talking about my thoughts about the rework overall, and kind of like my stance on how powerful he'll be after they release him in the next patch. So to start things off, let's just go over his passive. It's called Bravado. Pretty much the same thing as before, I would say. Taric infuses his next two basic attacks whenever he casts an ability. He swings faster with these two attacks, which deal increased damage and reduces cooldowns. So if you watch the video here, he's just going to be autoing this Rek'Sai. And then here he uses his Q, and then you'll see that this kind of jewel appears above his head really briefly, which indicates that his passive triggered, and then he just swings really fast. So like, I'll replay that once again. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. I wouldn't say anything is really too different about his Q, or his passive. Once numbers come out, I would love to see like what are the cooldowns on the rest of his abilities, because the main way you want to be using this passive is you want to be using a spell, like throwing an auto attack, and then using another spell, throwing an auto attack. So basically just always auto attacking every single time you cast a spell, because that way it'll reduce the cooldowns of all your abilities pretty quickly. And the main way you played Taric before is that you'd always stun, then you auto, then you heal, then you auto, then you W, then you auto, and just kind of rotate around like that. So I'll be interested to see the cooldowns just to see what kind of spell rotation he'll be having, because that will be very important through his gameplay overall. But otherwise, not very different. His Q is called Starlight's Touch. Taric heals himself and all nearby allies based on the number of Starlight's touch charges he's stored. Taric generates up to 3 charges over time. So if I play the video here, you can see that his Q is just an AoE heal. I would say it's very similar to a Sona Q. Like if you look at this, the AoE is roughly the same, but once again, like the heal area is very, very tiny. So you pretty much have to be standing near your ally if you want to give them the heal. With this charge system, it definitely encourages you to not use your heal as much and kind of just wait until you have 3 charges and then use the heal, so that way you can save some mana. I can't really think of many situations where you'd want to use your Q with not full charges unless you want to use your Q to proc your passive so you can reduce cooldowns more often. So like if I was just running around in the jungle like and I wanted a shorter cooldown on my ult or something like that, I could just pop a Q on myself early and then just like auto a jungle minion or something like that. Overall, like I would say it's okay. Like I don't think it's gonna be super strong, but it's nice to have a heal in lane. Like there aren't that many healers as good support healers right now, so this is always quite nice. I'm gonna skip over his W for now because I think it's a lot easier to talk about his W once I talk about his other abilities. So his E is same thing as before, Dazzle. After a brief delay, Taric fires off a short wave of celestial energy in a target direction that stuns all enemies struck. So if you watch the video right here, you can see it's just a line skill shot. Boom, he stuns that Rek'Sai right there, and he moves on. So I would compare this a lot more to a Xerath Q. You can kind of see it looks roughly the same. And pretty much has the same delay, same animation, and everything like that. So if you're really good at Xerath Q, you'll probably be really good with this Taric stun. This is very different than his targeted stun, because what was really good about Taric before is that his targeted stun basically made it impossible for enemies to approach him because he'll just stun you. But at the same time, it also made it really obvious when Taric was going to be going in to like harass you or stun you or engage on you. So I guess having a skill shot now kind of removes that, and could potentially be worse for you in lane, because it'll probably be a lot harder to hit like an enemy AD carry in lane. Like looking at this AoE or this range, it doesn't seem like super big. Like I would say that's maybe about 400-500 units, which is still like a little bit lower or about the same as most AD carries auto attack range. And given the delay on it, you probably won't be hitting out on AD carries that much unless you're running up like really fast at them with boots or something like that. Against a support, I would say that it's probably okay now. Like you can still hit supports just as easily as before, especially against melee supports. And even in teamfights, like this is going to be monstrous since it hits every single unit inside this line. So if you're inside a really narrow corridor in the jungle and you're teamfighting somewhere and you just stun like 4 people, like that's ridiculous. That's going to be really powerful. So overall, I would say that in the laning phase, the stun probably isn't going to be as helpful, but in teamfighting, this is going to be super, super strong. So I guess there's a trade-off there. His ultimate is called Cosmic Radiance. Taric calls on the stars themselves for protection. After a moderate delay, he and all nearby allies become invulnerable for a few seconds. So this is literally an AoE KO ult. So you can watch the video here. He just calls the ultimate now, so you can kind of see like the AoE circle in which all his allies are going to be invulnerable. I guess if you're standing in the AoE circle, you'll see like sparkles on your head or something like that. But you don't have the invulnerability yet because it still has to come with a delay. So you can see here, Lux still damages them while they're still in the circle because the ult hasn't proc yet. And then now that they're glowing, they are invulnerable, and now Lux is going to try to ult them. And does no damage. So what's really important to note with the ult is that when Taric casts the ability and has the circle, he can still be walking around and everything, and the circle will still follow him. So it's like an AoE around the Taric champion and not on the ground where Taric was standing when he cast the spell. And then what's also important is that any ally can still walk in and out of the circle, but they'll only be affected by the ult if they stand inside the circle, like right when the thing falls down from the sky. So like the Pantheon could be walking like towards the Taric as he's casting it, and then as soon as he walks in, when the star comes out, he'll be invulnerable. And then once he's invulnerable, he can continue walking around and cast spells, do whatever he wants while he has the invulnerability, just like a KO ult. So that's really important to know because that makes his ult really, really powerful. Like I would say that against some specific champions, it'll be really devastating for them. Like Karthus ult is gonna be pretty much useless against Taric now. Maybe someone like Zed, like an assassin, who does a lot of damage like after a delay. Like if Zed ults you and then you just cast the ult on yourself, you just don't take any damage from like the shuriken thing popping. Maybe Fiddlesticks, like because you can see Fiddlesticks like, you know, ulting from a pretty reasonable amount of time before like the ult procs off, so you can like cast the ult preemptively and then Fiddlesticks ult and then you don't take any damage. So in some situations this ult will be pretty good, but even if they don't target specific champions, like just casting the ult on yourself and like your allies around you is still really strong. Like the enemies pretty much have to back off because 2 seconds of invulnerability, I think it's about 2 seconds just from this video, but 2 seconds of vulnerability is really strong, and the fact you're still able to cast spells and use your ultimate and stuff like that is really ridiculous. And I think that this ability has to have a really long cooldown or something like that, because I think this is way too strong. And then the worst part yet about his kit is his W. So I think his W is actually the most questionable part about his kit. So what his W does is that his passive is that it increases Taric's armor. So sure, like I guess he gets more passive armor against like 80 comps. That's kind of nice. And his active is that Taric links with an ally, shielding them from damage. Bastion remains on Taric's ally until he recasts it onto another ally, or the two move far enough apart to break their link. And the most important key point is all of Taric's abilities are simultaneously cast from both Taric and his linked ally. So what this means is that his Q, his stun, and his ult will all still like be cast on whoever he links himself to. So you don't even have to be standing near your like 80 carry or whoever you want to protect when you ult. You just tether them with your W, and then you can run off and do whatever you want in team fight, and then just cast ult whenever you feel like it. And then no matter how far you are from your ally, like your ally will get the invulnerability guaranteed. So basically you have a guaranteed kill ult on yourself and whichever ally you want to target. So that's pretty good. Like that's actually like pretty ridiculous. And like with your Q, you have a guaranteed heal now, so you get like double the AoE heal on like yourself and like other people. Because that way like you can be standing around like two of your allies, and then the ally you're binded to can stand next to your last ally, and then like everyone gets a heal now, which is pretty crazy. And then the worst part yet is that his E also works. I guess you can kind of think of it like maybe like a Lulu picks. So you can basically like use your picks on like an ally, and then when you cast your Glitterlands or your Dazzle, the skill shots will both like target the same area you clicked. And so I even draw a really nice little paint diagram for you guys. So let's say Taric's like this pink blob, your allies is red blob, and like these two circles are like enemies. So if I like target, you know, this blob right here, Taric will shoot his stun like this, and then the stun from the ally will come in this direction, and that way you'll cover like two different lines, I guess, and that's pretty good, like especially in a team fight. So it's actually pretty easy to land your stun if you can bind to an ally, and then you have a lot more reach. So that's pretty powerful. So that's why I think his W is probably the most broken part about his kit. And overall, I think that he's going to be pretty freaking strong. Like, I think, like, just having the ability to make people invulnerable, having, like, a double skill shot stun, AoE stun is really, really strong. I definitely have to see the numbers and cooldowns and mana costs on this guy to just really get a feel for like how powerful he'll be, because like obviously the numbers will dictate a lot more than the kit itself. But I guess overall, I'm pretty glad they changed Taric to be a bit more interactive. Like, this is definitely a way more interactive kit than Taric before, because Taric was just like a stun bot, like aura bot, heal bot before, which wasn't very fun. So I guess in terms of interactivity and just being able to walk around and actually do things, like this is definitely way better for him. I just think he's going to be super, super broken. And like when Riot reworks supports, I can't really say that they've made supports like super balanced on the first time they release them. So we'll see what happens in a couple weeks once I get some numbers and stuff like that. But overall, like, I'm pretty excited for this rework. Definitely love to hear your guys' thoughts about this rework in the comments below. And I'll be around answering questions, I guess. And I'll definitely be testing this out more, maybe in even PvE, once PvE stuff comes out, because I'm really interested to see how powerful Taric will be.